What should be the roadmap of students preparing in each particular domain in data?
I see that there are two very easy or low-hanging entry points.
Is data analytics as a domain still relevant after the advent of generative AI like Bard or Gemini and ChatGPT?
People are looking for strategies to use generative AI.
What will be the pay scale for each specific domain?
For a fresher to start their career in data science would start somewhere around.
If somebody who's starting from a non-CS background or from like a fresh with a career break or something who's switching domains, which of these 4 domains would you suggest for them to take up?
Out of these 4 domains that we discussed, the highest amount of technology drenching.
How long will it take to learn each particular skill in specific?
Training yourself on statistical models, certain frameworks might take you time.
Are there jobs in each domain right now? Hello everyone. Today we have Omkar Sawant with us. He works as a data analytics specialist at Google and he has had like 5 years of experience at Microsoft. In this video, let's learn more about data analytics domain and the roadmap to prepare for data analytics streams. Yeah, welcome Omkar. Thank you for joining us with the podcast.
Thanks for having me once again, Hari.
Yeah, awesome Omkar. So I'll just start with the most basic question everybody have. Like, is data analytics as a domain still relevant after the advent of generative AI like Bard or Gemini and ChatGPT?
All right. Perfect. That's a really nice question to begin with. The answer is yes. Okay. It's still relevant. What I've been seeing in the organization that is happening right now is people are looking for strategies to use generative AI, mix it with their data, and come up with new use cases altogether, or new problems to solve, or new solutioning areas altogether. Okay. In a way, the advent of generative AI has actually complemented to what data can do for you right now.
Got it.
Earlier, where people used to develop painstaking algorithms, right, can now be done in minutes. Right. So your time to market is also improved.
Right.
So the insights that you get from your data is become more richer because of generative AI.
Right.
So they are like going hand in hand very well. And it's a boon to the data industry altogether. So it is relevant.
Got it.
And the basis of generative AI is to have data.
Right.
To be trained on top of.
Got it.
Right.
Got it.
So it is still going to be relevant for the years to come.
Right.
Honestly.
Got it. So the most frequently asked question everywhere is generative AI going to take away jobs? Is like, I think pretty much Omkar has tried to address that question. So thank you so much for answering that.
Perfect.
Yeah. So now let's dive deeper into the roadmap for each specific data domains. So can we start with defining the domains and what tech stack and what should be the roadmap of students preparing in each particular domain in data?
So the way I view it is like there are 4 core domains in data as a overall field.
Right.
The first is data engineering. Okay. The sole job of these people is to get the raw data right.
Right.
Okay. These people are responsible for converting your data, raw data, be it structured and unstructured, into the right format. Okay. Developing pipelines for it, streaming or batch analytics. Right. So that now the data from a raw nature can be converted into something which can be consumed for insight.
Right.
That's typically what data engineering does.
Right. Got it.
The second domain is, now once this data is converted into a consumable format, someone has to consume it. Probably identifying patterns across the data.
Right.
For example, the easiest thing is in India, the typical sales are higher during the Diwali vacations. Right. And so that we ensure that we cater to a huge amount of market, we create an equivalent amount of stock in our warehouses.
Got it.
So this is an insight that you see from a daily spend or analyzing the spend of the data.
Yeah.
Right. So telling stories that will eventually benefit the business is something what data analysis does. Then comes the third category, which is data science.
Right.
Now we have historical data with us. Okay, we have identified the patterns.
Right.
Now, by using these two in conjunction, I would want to predict the future. For example, if my sale today is, let's say, 100 crore rupees, what will the same sales be 3 months down the line?
Right.
or 5 months down the line,
Right.
or for 2 years down the line,
Got
for
it.
example.
Got it.
So you tend, based on the existing historical pattern of data, you tend to predict.
Right.
That's what we call as in this scenario as structured learning.
Right.
Or there is another segment called reinforcement learning.
Right.
Sometimes it is very difficult to form the pattern,
Mhm.
okay, and you form this pattern on the fly.
Right.
This is what we call as reinforcement learning kind of a thing. So that's the part of data science altogether. The fourth and the forgotten child is what I call them as is data governance.
Right.
Now, data governance typically addresses problems like who has access to what,
Right.
and whether they should have it. For example, let's imagine a data engineering. Okay, his job is to create data pipelines, but somehow has an access to salary databases of all the employees,
Got it.
which
Got
he
it.
should not.
Right.
Right?
Right.
In this scenario. So as an organization grows, right, data resides in several structured and unstructured files, systems located across
Got it.
different places altogether. Identifying what data is located where, and then what is the importance of data. For example, is it a PII data?
Right.
Okay. Is it something which should not be public?
Right.
So that is the job of a data governance
Got it.
team altogether. Every organization has one in the form of their
Got it.
information security
Right.
folks.
Got it.
Let's start one by one
Yeah.
with data engineering.
Let's dive deeper into each domain. Like we'll start with data engineering. We'll see the roadmap, the tech stack, and all the stuff. Yeah.
So as we say data engineers, the job is to get the data right. For example, they convert raw data into something that is consumable.
Yeah.
Okay, into furnished data.
Yeah.
Typical tools that we see across the industry that are very commonly used in case of batch data is Python and SQL. These are very, very paramount. If someone is looking to develop their career in data engineering, these two are like considered to be non-negotiable items.
Got it. Got it.
There is a separate field in data engineering for streaming data analytics. Okay, typically people expect you to learn Spark.
Right.
In that scenario. So Scala is a language that typically people go for the development of streaming data analytics. This domain is also booming a lot because it gives you the ability to take decisions when the data is actually arriving on the fly.
Correct.
Okay. So this is where I've seen a lot of development these days, across the data engineering field. If you are someone who's looking to begin your career in data engineering, I think Python, SQL, streaming analytics is your forte. Then Scala or Spark is something that you should look after.
Got it.
You should make them as your core friends.
Right.
Secondly, let's come to data analysis or data analyst. Typically, designations that we find out in the market is a BI analyst, okay, or data analyst, or just an analyst.
Right.
Basically, I call them as storytellers.
Right.
You identify the pattern in your data, and then you come up with insights that people may not know about.
Correct.
For example, if I identify the sales of a particular organization and now somehow able to find certain cyclical nature in that, so that is an insight for me.
Right.
Accordingly, I can structure my back processes so that they align with my business.
Correct.
And then it can help me scale my entire output or entire revenues and everything. Okay, or my market reach, for example. Typically, these people can do analysis of data on like sheets or mere Excel workbooks, or sometimes they use BI tools like Looker for that matter. They create charts. Okay, they convert that raw data. Okay, which no one likes to look at, honestly, even if it is furnished to an extent.
Correct.
And convert them into picturesque stories, which are easier to read and frame meanings out of.
Right.
Okay, and then which actually govern your decision making.
Got it.
So that is one of the capabilities that so if you're willing to develop your career in data analysis, I think sheets is something which you should know. That's the bare minimum.
Yeah.
You should have knowledge about statistical models and frameworks.
Right.
And then BI tools, which the world uses in this scenario.
Can you break down into like the timeline? How long will it take to learn each particular skill in specific?
So typically, if you start it as a BI analyst, right, learning sheets or Excel, right, should not take you more than a couple of weeks,
Right.
honestly. If you want to train yourself in the most advanced level altogether.
Right.
Training yourself on statistical models, certain frameworks, might take you time
Right.
because this will involve bit of programming through SQL
Right.
and or Python,
Right.
depending on the organization that you're working for.
Got it.
And then finally, learning a BI tool. BI is supposed to be easy.
Right.
It is supposed to be drag and drop, right?
Correct.
You start painting pictures
Correct.
out of the raw data
Correct.
that you have. So I think if you want to kickstart a career somewhere, you should look at a timeline of 2 to 3 months, and that should be enough for you to kickstart your career as a
Right.
data analyst.
Right. Got it.
This might not be the case for a data engineer
Right.
though, because of the tech heaviness
Yeah.
kind of a nature that this particular role has.
Got it.
Now the third component is obviously data science, right? And out of all the roles, all the 4 domains in data, this is the most tech heavy role.
Right.
You're not only just needed to be having your grasp for several programming languages, scikit, PyCharm,
Yeah.
n number of models altogether.
Right.
You need to know what different models can fit towards
Correct.
the problem statement,
Right.
which can change, or how do we identify cyclicity, how do we retrain the model. Generative AI is also going to be a part of this data science. Eventually these are
Right.
nothing but neural networks, right, behind the scenes. So a typical journey starts with the development of understanding of several models
Right.
that you are, be it linear regression, logistic regression, to very very complex models
Right.
like XGBoost or SVNs, or even more
Got it.
complex models
Got it.
than this thing. A lot of time for these people also goes in identifying the right model for a particular business use case. For example, accuracy of training, right, or prediction capability, or
Got it.
recall are a couple of terms, right?
Right.
So it's more of a tech heavy.
Right.
You need to be, if not a guru, but you need to have good hands-on experience on
Right.
Python related machine learning libraries, and math should be your friend.
Correct.
If you are a mathematics guy, for you it becomes very easy to venture
Right.
into data science as a field.
Got it.
The time, from a timeline perspective, it takes a bit longer because of the tech heaviness.
Correct.
Again, and the complexity itself. The concepts are not easily digestible.
Yeah.
Okay, in this scenario. So it takes time.
Got
You can consider it over 5 to 6 months to
Right.
just get kick-started.
Correct.
And then you need to get your hands dirty in code,
Right.
try develop models, and it's an ongoing exercise.
Correct.
You can never say that, okay, I became a full-fledged data scientist today.
Right. Right.
Okay,
Right.
because there is always room for expansion in
Correct.
this field.
Correct. Yeah.
And the finally one says data governance, right? Typically audit software trains, right? These are less tech and more of functional kind of a role,
Right.
where you ask questions that, okay, what if this data is accessed by these kind of people? What can go wrong,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And eventually you drive the policies of that
Right.
organization, be it information security or data security policy, how the data is moving all together, encryption and decryption.
Correct.
There are pre-built tools that are enabled, these are tools, less of technology, less
Right.
of programming over here, but more of functional questioning.
Got it.
You start questioning processes of your organization.
Got it.
Why this happens this way only?
Right.
Isn't there any other way?
Better way to do it. Yeah.
Is there a better way,
Correct.
more secure way to
Correct.
do it? And then come up with solutions.
Right.
So there are several tools that are there in the market, like Dataplex, which gives you an overall understanding of your.
Right.
The timeline for this particular career path would look at somewhere around 2 to 3 months.
Right.
You just need to get hang of one
Right.
tools, and there are
Got
several
it.
tools which will have similar kind of functionality throughout.
Right.
So that is how typically it
Okay.
looks like
Got
across the 4
Right.
data.
Thanks for sharing the roadmap for each domain in a much detailed way. So now I want to ask, like, if somebody who's starting from a non-CS background or from like a fresh with a career break or something who's switching domains, which of these 4 domains would you suggest for them to take up, which will be easier for them to grasp the ideas and learn the skills?
I see that there are 2 very easy or low-hanging entry points.
Right.
First is someone who is from a non-CS background can start with data analysis,
Right.
the storytelling piece,
Correct.
okay, where you actually get the raw data
Right.
and then you develop stories around
Right.
it. Slowly and gradually, you will develop an inclination either towards predicting the future or towards actually getting the data right.
Correct.
And then you have multiple paths from that point in time. The second piece is if you have a career break in your scenario. See, having a career break has nothing to do with you starting your data journey.
Correct.
Right? Your life is a classic example of reinforcement learning.
Correct.
You have been doing data analytics, you've been training your mental model right from the point you were growing as a child.
Correct.
Right? So data analytics is there inside you from the very beginning, right? You just need to identify your knack. Second place where a lot of freshers, they start their journey is at data engineering. For example, I started as a data engineering guy, right? Getting the data right, in this scenario. Again, this does not need you to be from a CS background.
Got it.
You just need to be in a position to identify what is the problem with this set of data, what is needed for me to do to convert it into the right format.
Got it.
Once you have this understanding, you'll automatically start hunting for tools.
Got it.
Like Python or SQL in that scenario.
Got it.
And learning SQL, I think, is not as difficult, and learning Python at the same time. It has a learning curve, but I think 2 to 3 months should be more than enough for you to getting your grasp over it, and then kickstart your data engineering career path. Data science is a bit tough nut to crack. It is not that easy. You require experience about different models. You need to have that industrial knack at the same time. If you don't have that experience, you cannot industry angle, you cannot develop those models. You have to. So typically, people after spending like 4 or 5 years in data engineering and analysis, then they venture into data science.
Correct.
Data scientists, AI engineers, ML engineers, right? These are well versed, groomed in data kind of folks. And then finally, once you have played with the data and everything, you have data governance, which again requires you to have a lot of experience to ask those right set of functional questions. What would be the right data policy for my organization, for which you need to understand how the data is flowing. So after going through all these domains, right, then finally you can choose your job as a data engineer or a CISO in an organization.
I think that would have pretty much clarified a lot of people's confusion in which domain to choose based on their particular skill sets. Now, another big question is, which is the highest paid among the data domains? Like, that will be a question which makes most people align towards one specific domain or another. So what is your opinion on which is the highest paid, and you can rank it also based on order?
So if I rank it out, right, I think the data science folks will have the highest pay. To an extent, data governance folks are also paid in a good amount. In majority of the times, it will be on number 2 in this scenario, but they are also paid very well. Given the nature that their decision, their policies will impact the organization.
Got it.
So the greater the impact, the greater is going to be the pay. Strikingly comes data engineering, because their job is to get the data right, which is eventually going to impact a lot of decision making or policy creation. And then finally you have the storytelling piece, which is data analysis, in the same. So that is how I would actually go ahead and rate it.
So Omkar, one more question which everybody has in their mind is like, what will be the pay scale for each specific domains, and that influences what domain people choose and what they start to pursue. So can you explain a brief on that?
This is a very subjective question given the current market and everything, but I'll try to answer as, let's imagine you are a fresher who's trying to venture into the career of data, right, and you would want to start as a data analyst. And now there are typically 3 kinds of organizations that you can join. First is the service industry, second is a big tech like product-based companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, right? And then there are upcoming startups altogether. Now, if you join the service industry, right, that is where you expect the lowest possible pay, because they hire people as mass recruiters in this scenario, and their end goal is not to create a revolutionary product, but to develop a solution for someone else. It's a number game over there. So a typical salary range for a fresher to start their career in data science would start somewhere around 6 to 8 lakh rupees, and then slowly and gradually it can increase over the years of experience. If we move towards a product-based company or big tech company, right, the number completely changes. Actually, there are people who started their careers at 18 lakhs per annum at the same time, with extra stock options and everything in product-based companies. But yes, this is where you are expected to be much more tech capable in this scenario. The interviews are also very difficult to crack in this scenario. But yes, I'm not saying that freshers cannot get into big with tech, and that too at a very
Right.
high paying jobs.
Correct.
Now, the third, which is an emerging sector, is like the new age startups. Right. Typically, these are all IT and IT's founders. They understand the importance of tech altogether,
Right.
and to an extent, sometimes they pay you more than the big tech companies.
Okay.
But again, it depends on the kind of startup that
Correct.
you work for
Correct.
altogether.
Correct.
The core essence is that they value people with technology skills.
Correct.
So typically, people can expect it's a range again. From for a well-doing startup, you can expect as high as 20 LPA.
Right.
But considering a mid-tier startup, can expect something around 14 to 15 LPA.
Right.
So it may not match big tech to a
Right.
certain extent, but it can outgrow big tech.
Correct.
In case of certain startups.
Correct.
So the experience that you get is a holistic experience.
Correct.
In case of a startup though.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Big tech, you are just focused on one single
Correct.
module or one single aspect of development.
Right.
Service based is just one single solution
Correct.
that you are working towards.
Correct. Correct.
Right. But yes, in case of startup, you are like the whole and soul of
Correct.
everything.
Got it.
Yeah, so that is how typically
Right.
it is developed. Yes, and slowly and gradually, right, what people typically do is they gain experience in a startup or a service-based company and then move to a product-based company. I've seen people who actually are working with a big tech company, and then move to a startup
Okay.
at a very, very high positions.
Right.
Like, you might be an architect level person, someone getting into a VP level positions
Correct.
or director level positions into startups altogether.
Right. Got
So
it.
yeah, that is typically how the movements,
Right.
work across tech.
So how would you rank the pay of different domains? Like where is data engineering placed across different data domains? Where is data science placed? So can you rank it in that order?
Right. So there is a very simple mantra for this.
Yeah.
Okay, the more tech heavy the job,
Hmm.
the higher the pay.
Right.
Right. Out of those 4 domains that we discussed, the highest amount of technology drenching
Right.
happens in data science. Right?
Obviously.
You have to be tech savvy at
Correct.
all points in time, and you have to be literally into the code.
Right.
So the highest amount of that would be number one in terms of salary
Right.
expectation. Just little below. Okay. Now this role is not a tech savvy role, but impacts organizational decision making.
Right.
The impact is high, which
Got
is
it.
data governance,
Got it.
policy making regarding how the data functions and everything. A non-tech role, but still very well paid.
Got it. Got it.
The third comes is data engineering.
Yeah.
Because again, it's a tech heavy role.
Yeah.
In this scenario. You are expected to design, make things work
Right,
with
right,
the data.
right.
And then finally, we have data analysis or
Right.
storytelling.
Right.
Basically, that's the easiest.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say that, that there is no involvement of
Right.
tech in analysis, because you have to analyze
Makes
data.
sense, yeah.
Structural models are there, do forecasting and everything. But yes, the amount of tech intervention or coding intervention,
Correct.
to be honest, right, is very less
Right.
in case of analysis or
Yeah.
as a data analyst or a BI analyst.
Yeah.
So it's the data science, then data governance, then data engineering, and finally you have
Yeah,
data
thanks for that.
analysis.
And like it's completely cohesive with the preparation plan we discussed also, right?
Right.
Like you rank it in the same order when it's like how tech heavy it is and how long it will take to prepare. Data science will take a longer time. Data analytics is something which you can learn in like a shorter period. It's more easier for non-tech people and
To get in.
to get in, right? So it makes sense with the pay also being in sync with the preparation and the tech heavy thing inside.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for answering that question. And yeah, now let's dive into a more serious question. Like, are there jobs in each domain right now? Like, are there good openings? Like, considering the market scenario and things.
Considering the market scenario
Yeah.
right now, right? And if I compare it with the time when I started my career
Right.
in this domain. So let's say there are 100 job openings,
Right.
out of which, probably 90 would be for software development
Right.
engineers at that point in time,
Right.
7 years back.
Right.
Now it is like people need candidates
Right.
with data skill sets,
Right.
because they understand that okay, we will create products. There are already engineers who can create cool products out of Java or any other programming language, who are software engineers.
Right.
But for this very specific decision making, the value of data is like increase, and people are tending to understand that data being the new
Right.
oil, it is very critical for any
Correct.
organization to grow. Now, what if the organization is not able to make decisions, even if it has killer products, right? So data is that missing piece of puzzle
Correct.
which the industry is understanding these days, and
Right.
because of which the splurge is,
More
the
on-
demand is
yeah.
very high.
Correct.
Honestly. So if I compare it, out of 100 openings altogether, I would say that right now it is like 14 software development engineers, 14 data altogether,
Right.
the four branches all
Got it.
combined, and then rest 20 can be, generative AI
Got
and
it.
the upcoming buzzing fields.
Got it.
So that is how typically the spread is across.
Yeah.
So if you are someone, right, who is a fresher or an experienced professional who want to migrate to data domain and looking to pursue your career into that, you're absolutely at the right spot,
Right.
at the right time.
And that would have made people more calm on this question of whether jobs are there or not. And obviously, you just need one job, right? If you're skilled enough, you'll get that job. You don't need 100 openings to get you hired by somebody, some employer. So yeah, that's that.
Just
always.
focus on breaking
Correct.
down the problems
Right.
and the impact that you
Yeah.
drive.
Yeah.
You
Just
should be able to nail
Correct.
that opportunity
got
very
it.
well.
Right. So yeah, just we'll end it with a final advice which you would suggest to people preparing for data analytics for starting the career of in the domains.
One thing which I typically say is start training your mental model. Develop your mental model around, okay, what are you typically good at? What problems do you like to solve? How easy it is for you to identify patterns, right? Be it in your personal lives or be it in your professional lives altogether, right? And then add technical skills to it, right? You'll automatically see that light guiding you that, okay, whether you would want to pursue a career in data analysis or whether you would want to be an ML engineer or a data governance guy altogether. That's first thing. And then second is get your hands dirty with code or tech.
Right.
There is no substitute for
practice.
hard work and practice and getting your hands dirty. So
Correct.
these are the only two soul mantras.
Correct.
And third one is okay, reach out to like-minded people, talk more about this. What are the new things that are upcoming? How you can navigate through the career altogether. So these are the three mantras, right? You should keep as your guiding principles.
Yeah, that would really help students. I think they are very good advice which they can take up and start preparing. So thank you, Omkar. Thank you so much for sharing a lot of things in the podcast. So I think it will be very helpful for students to take their career further. Thank you so much for spending your time with us.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you, man.
Yeah, thank you.